Welcome to the KPC Smart Money Podcast with Kevin and Karen Christ. Today we're going to talk about the 80 billion, with that B, 80 billion IRS infusion and how that means more audits. Well, of course it does. And they're expecting those audits by 2026 or 2027. So the 80 billion injection of new money for the Internal Revenue Service to help it go after tax cheats amounts to more of a lifeline for an agency funding cuts over many years, with challenges ahead in recruiting and the talent it will need.
So right now, the storyline is the IRS has lost more than 23,000 workers since 2010, and it's projected to lose another 50,000 workers in the next 5 years just because of retirements. So the agency had 80,000 at the height of the tax season this year, and many of the losses in the past decade have come from key departments that help enforce tax laws and assist taxpayers in fulfilling their duties.
Although the Inflation Reduction Act, signed by Joe Biden on August 16th, counts on increased revenue from IRS enforcement to help pay for a slew of climate change initiatives. It could take years until the government starts seeing results as the agency rebuilds itself.
Yeah, so again, given the scope of that bill, keep in mind these changes won't be immediate, and that's coming from the IRS Commissioner Chuck Redding, that he wrote in a memo on August 16th to the IRS employees. It's a 10-year plan, and it will take time to put these provisions into place.
So, IRS funding, or the lack thereof, has been one of the most under-the-radar political fights in Washington over the past decade.
Yeah, and one of the reasons, Kevin, is that, in 2013, after the scandal involving an IRS official who was targeting conservative groups applying for nonprofit status, well, guess what? The IRS had quite a few budget cuts after that.
And those cuts forced the IRS to slowly pare back on audits of the wealthy, but the effects proved universal. Some refunds took years to process, and in time only 11% of calls placed to the IRS would actually reach a human. Even as it struggled to keep up, the agency was assigned fresh tasks, including implementing the 2017 Republican tax law that we are enjoying today.
Yeah, and so, I don't know if you were one of those people, but, I was waiting for a refund, and it took them almost a year to get it to me. You had this little app you had to go to called, find my refund or track my refund. And every single time, all it just did was come back and say, we're working on it. 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 And then I tried to call a human. No. Then the recording said, go to the app.
Well, and you know what? Then they were busy distributing 3 rounds of stimulus payments during the pandemic. So they couldn't get your return back to you, dear.
Well, yeah. So if you think about it, the IRS is not only supposed to be doing audits and collecting taxes, now they're responsible for all the tracking with Obamacare. They have to get stimulus checks out. I mean, what else are we going to start having the IRS do?
Well, the volume of complaints about low levels of service reached a fever pitch in 2020, forcing lawmakers to reckon with rebuilding the diminished agencies. Still, the new investment of $80 billion over a decade has not won universal support.
No, it has not.
I wonder why.
Well, and then, of course, you see in the news and you hear, you hear politicians, even senior senators who previously chaired the Finance Committee. They have said the funding will give the IRS the ability to hire an additional 87,000 armed auditors. Armed.
Did you say armed?
I did. And that's
Who
because...
will target. What a word. Who will target
the middle class taxpayer.
And they're
right.
armed.
And you know what? These messages are sinking in because some polls show that enhanced IRS enforcement is one of the least popular portions of the Inflation Expansion Act. I know it's called reduction, but that's a joke. Anyway, and, part of that comes from because, they spent several million over the last few years on bullets. Okay.
Still, Mark Everson, who served as IRS commissioner under President George W. Bush, says some Americans view the IRS with skepticism. Oh, really? Or even hostility. Oh, yeah. Which can make it difficult to recruit.
Yeah, I imagine it might be hard. Although I think that, like good, honest, country-loving people should take the jobs. Maybe the IRS could be turned around.
So it's kind of like in biblical times, the tax collectors, they didn't like them too much, did
No,
they?
they did not.
Matthew was a tax collector.
He was. No, taxpayers have never been, or tax collectors have never been looked highly
No.
on. But, the IRS hasn't yet said how many positions it plans to add, but indications are expected in the coming months. And Representative Bill Pascrell, a senior Democrat, he has asked for details by the end of August. Well, here we are, about how the IRS plans to spend the money. I haven't seen anything on that yet, but even broadly, Janet Yellen has directed the agency to come up with a strategic plan by mid-February. Man, I wish that as a business I could do that. Hand me a boatload of money and maybe I'll come up with a strategic plan.
Hey, I'll get back to you by mid-February, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the way it works is you're supposed to come up with a strategic plan.
I got to take a few vacations
first. And then maybe a bank is going to give you lots of money.
Oh, my.
Yeah, okay.
Even after the IRS gets new employees in the door, it takes time to get them trained, thank God for that, to handle the complicated tax returns of high earners that Yellen says will be the focus of new audit teams. The IRS's output may even diminish in the next few years as the agency taps its best employees to train newcomers, says Everson, now the vice chairman of tax advisory firm Alliant Group.
Okay, so in essence, the poor service could get worse in a couple of years while this training is going on. And the areas that receive the most emphasis: complex returns, international businesses, multi-tier partnership. All of these areas, you just can't hand it over to a brand new auditor that just got their accounting degree. I mean, I understand that, but, the IRS and the Democrats have moved to reassure Americans that the additional audit activity will only affect those making $400,000 or more, and that additional staff includes a range of positions, not just enforcement of officials. They're also trying to say, they're not going to carry weapons. There is still, because of the behavior of the IRS in the past, they can say whatever they want. We hear a high level of distrust among people as to what in the world the IRS is going to do with this magnificent windfall they just got.
Yeah. So part of the problem is, and why they're needing to recruit all these new people, is let's look at, there's a share of workers who are 55 or older. So the mail-in file workers for the IRS, 51.5% are over 55. So they're wanting to retire. The IT people, 47% over 55. Tax law specialists, over 41% are over 55. Internal revenue agents, 39% are 55 or older. Tax specialists, 39%. Examiners, 38.6%. You get it, right?
Yep.
So a lot of the people that are in the IRS now are wanting to retire a large portion. So,
yeah. So, an increase in scrutiny, though, is going to be a rude awakening for some taxpayers and potentially a lot of taxpayers. Audits on the highest earning Americans, those reporting $5 million or more in annual income, that rate fell from 2.35 in 2019, and it used to be 16% a decade earlier.
yeah. So an increase in
No, the audit numbers have gone down drastically over the past 10 to 15 years. And that's something they're looking to increase.
So that's concerning to clients who are following the law. So that's the point. So we estimate that the audit rate will pick up again to 2026 or 2027, which is what we mentioned before. Once the IRS has trained all these new teams of agents to prepare, the taxpayers should assume the IRS is always watching. We are watching you.
Right.
Even if the audit risk is low.
You know what I find interesting about those dates? Basically, they're saying they should get their audit rates back up in 2026, and that is the year that all taxes are going up because the Trump tax.
Yeah. So they're going to raise the taxes, and they'll have a trained-up army of IRS agents.
So
what a coincidence!
Look out for 2026.
Yeah, it's just so. So we're out of time here, but that's another reason why we're talking to people about Roth conversions right now,
Absolutely.
right? Okay. So we'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. Until then, be blessed.
You've been listening to the KPC Smart Money Podcast with Kevin and Karen Christ. To listen to more episodes, visit kpcsmartmoney.com. You can also find the KPC Smart Money Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher.
KPC Financial Solutions is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through KPC Financial Solutions, LLC, a registered investment company. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any reference to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. KPC Financial Solutions is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by KPC Financial Solutions. Hypothetical examples have been provided for illustrative purposes only. It does not represent a real-life scenario and should not be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation.